GOP congressman and former CIA agent Will Hurd writing an op-ed today that's getting a lot of attention. In it, he says, quote, "Over the course of my career as an undercover officer in the CIA, I saw Russian intelligence manipulate many people. I never thought I would see the day when an American president would be one of them." Let's bring in CNN senior political commentator and former Republican senator from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. How are you, Allison?
I'm doing well. Will Hurd's op-ed is really interesting to dive into. I'll read you a little bit more of it, okay? He says, by playing into Vladimir Putin's hands, the leader of the free world actively participated in a Russian disinformation campaign that legitimized Russian denial and weakened the credibility of the United States to both our friends and foes abroad. Rick, what's your reaction to what a Republican is saying?
Yeah, frankly, I just think that overstates the case. I mean, I accept the fact that the president handled and stated publicly that the president handled the press conference very poorly, and I'm very happy that he walked back some of what he said at the press conference. It was very unsettling. I think having talked to several of my colleagues this week up on the Hill, I mean, it was a very unsettling week for everybody.
So then where does Will Hurd get it wrong? I mean, where does he get it wrong? In other words, by on the world stage, let's just remind people, by on the world stage next to Vladimir Putin, by saying that the U.S. was to blame, that the U.S. has been foolish. This is what he said next to Vladimir Putin. I mean, that the U.S. should take blame for the election interference, the cyber warfare. How was he not actively participating in Russian disinformation? That's what Vladimir Putin would have wanted him to say.
Yeah, here's what I would say. I think what as unsettling as the week was, I think what most members of Congress and frankly most Trump supporters now understand, and Maggie Haberman talked about this in the previous thing, is that the president will say things that just are not necessarily consistent with what his administration is advocating, and goes off script as someone who is very unpredictable in that way.
Rick, don't you see it as that's what he really thinks? He was off script, and those are the times that he speaks his mind.
Yeah, see, I think what most members of Congress do is look at this situation and say what the president is troubled with is conflating this idea that his election is illegitimate because of Russian involvement.
I get all that. So why blame the U.S.? Why say the U.S. is to blame?
Because I just don't think the president has done a very good job in his own mind. I think most members of Congress realize this, of sort of separating out the issue as to whether Russia got involved in the election and whether the Trump administration colluded. They're two different things. And the fact that Russia got involved in the election doesn't mean that Russia had an influence that determined him to be the victor. And I think if he could set aside those issues, he'd be a lot more effective.
But he can't,
in
Rick.
communicating.
I mean, he can't. It's been a year and a half,
but here's the bottom line.
In front of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, but here's the bottom line to I think the vast majority of Republicans who are looking at this situation, and it goes on almost everything else where Trump goes off script, and that is, look, yes, he may say things that are unsettling at times or inconsistent with traditional Republican policies, or or democratic values in some cases, yes. But if you look at what the president is doing with Russia, the president's policy toward Russia is actually rather reassuring to most Republicans.
Are you reassured by the invitation to Vladimir Putin to the White House?
Again, that doesn't really bother me too much.
And why not? Why doesn't it bother you, somebody who has launched a cyber war on the U.S. election? To the White House.
I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore that it didn't bother Democrats to normalize relationships with Cuba. I mean,
so you feel the same way as Democrats do. This is interesting.
No, I don't. All I'm saying is that if the president wants to develop a personal relationship with Vladimir Putin, fine. I'm going to keep my eye trained on the most important thing, which is what is the policy of the United States toward Russia when it comes to Ukraine and Crimea and Syria and a whole host of other issues.
What did the president talk to Vladimir Putin about those things in Helsinki?
Well, the one things we do know is that Vladimir Putin was very clear after the conversation that the president condemned the annexation of Crimea, and in fact, everything we've heard from a policy point of view, the president didn't reverse anything, didn't change course on anything.
Wait a minute, Rick. Hold on a second. One of the things that we heard was that he was open to Vladimir Putin's suggestion that Vladimir Putin and his military officers be able to interrogate Russian diplomats. I mean, our U.S. diplomats to Russia, our ambassador.
Again, he considered the idea, but again, if you look at policies
yes,
from
but,
a
but that is a policy. That is a consideration of a policy.
It's all wrapped up into the same Russia investigation. I just think you have to take the issues around the Russia meddling in the election and his conversations about that, and put that in a separate box.
Well, that's convenient, Rick. I mean, it's good that you
I
can
don't think it is convenient. I think
you
that's
can compartmentalize in a way that not all Americans can. Let me ask you this. The president has just, again, tweeted yesterday, I believe. So at the end of this bizarre week, here's what was on the president's mind. He tweeted that the summit was a great success. Okay? I don't know what metric he's using, but that's not what lots of other Republicans felt, and pundits. He tweeted that the free press is the enemy of the people. And then the White House, of course, tweeted yesterday that he's inviting Vladimir Putin, as you know, former KGB officer who has reporters killed, also not a fan of the free press, Vladimir Putin, and his political rivals to the White House. And I'm just wondering, Rick, do you ever get dizzy living in upside-down world?
Look, I don't like it when the president tweets out things that undermine the First Amendment. And look, the free press is an important element in our society. Does the press get it wrong a lot? And does the press vilify this president more than any president in probably the history of the country? Yes.
And does this president vilify the press more than any president ever in history?
It's a mutual relationship.
And you're comfortable with that? I mean, it is the First Amendment.
I'm not comfortable with it, but I'm not comfortable with people going after the president and accusing him of treason and calling for impeachment.
You know that these are former intel people.
Yeah, former intel guys who have a long history of doing things that are that I think more harmful to this country than what the president did. So
you were okay, Rick. I just have to clarify. You seem to have been comfortable standing next to Vladimir Putin and blaming America.
I don't. First off, I'm not comfortable with that.
That's what they weren't comfortable with, and they felt that
they
rose to the level of calling it something to the effect of treason.
It's the greatest advantage that the president has, which is people going ballistic and going too far in condemning this president for his actions. I think there were a lot of responsible condemnations of the president's actions, and then there were some that were irresponsible and consistent with the hysterics around this president, and actually give the president quarter when he does things like
understood.
this.
I understand. Okay, one last thing. We just want to show you a photograph. Rick, this is you and Maria Butina, the woman who has been so much in the press for the past week. She has been charged with acting as a foreign agent. This was, I think, outside an NRA convention. Do you remember her?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't do background checks on people who walk up to me and ask me for pictures. So it looks to me, I mean, I think I had a briefcase over my shoulder. I was walking out of a convention probably, and someone walked up and asked for a picture. And, if someone asks me for a picture, I always say yes.
No, I get it. Me too. I do that all the time. But I'm just, when you realize, when you heard the news this week, that she is an accused Russian spy, she's accused of offering sex for access. She was trying to make inroads with the Trump campaign and Republicans and the NRA. What did you think when you looked back at that photo?
Well, I mean, look, I didn't think anything. I thought, that could have been anybody, from someone who committed other horrible crimes. But, look, like I said, I don't do background checks. Someone who, walks up and has a tag that says they're part of the convention and they want a picture, I get a picture.
Yeah, of course. I know. I totally get the picture thing. It's just now knowing what she was up to.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, look, you try to be kind to people who at least you think honestly would like their picture taken for whatever reason. Look, I get my picture taken with folks who I know hate me, and they want to go out there and say, look, I hate this guy, but that's okay. I mean, that's a free country. Well, it's fine to take your picture with anybody.
I'm not sure that's a good use of your time, but I'm sure they appreciate it.
Always try to be kind to people. That's the way I look at it.
Rick Santorum, thanks so much for giving us your perspective on all of this.